Hey, we're back, but on a different stream. Hopefully, you all can find that. Anybody there? Hello? I'm so sorry. My internet cut out. I've been having internet issues since Monday when I first tried to do this. Okay, there we go. I got two people still with me. Two people still with me. Two people still with me. I don't. Okay. All right. We're going to move on. Not sure what happened there. I apologize. My internet cut out a bit. So what we're going to do, we're going to angle this down. Oh, that's gorgeous. Look at that. Okay. So can you all hear me? I wonder, why can't I see the chat? That's frustrating. We'll have to figure that out for the future. So what we're going to do is we're going to start to mix. What I need to do is add a drop shadow to this fan, but I want it to be nice and kind of ethereal, shadow-like, very soft, very blended into my background. But my painting right now is wet. So what I'm going to do first, actually, show you here. So I'm going to take some linseed oil that I have in this jar right here, and we're going to add that onto my painting. We're going to kind of spread it. Now, what we need to be careful of is that the paint that had already dried on my surface doesn't peel up, right? Doesn't come back up, moisturize itself and start to pull off of the canvas. That's not what I want at all. So I'm going to come over here and pick a brush. I want one that's going to be pretty nice and soft. Perfect. This is exactly what I want. Nice and soft brush for you all. Man, I had like 10 people on here before my internet went out, and now I only have 2. Oh well. All right, so I'm going to take some of this linseed oil here, and I'm just going to start to brush it around some of these areas and start to lay on some linseed oil into my painting. Now, it's going to kind of sit on the surface a little bit because the other paint is dry, but that's okay because I want just some oil to work into. I need to actually grab my photo of my ceiling fan. There we go. I got a third person. Welcome, welcome. All right. So again, I'm not using any paint. I'm just using the linseed oil to kind of ignite my surface, make it so it has plenty of oil and moisture to work with when I actually do go in with color. And I'm just going to kind of spread that around nice and light in these areas where I know that my shadow is going to be. Looks like Shannon's with us. Looks like Miss Rebecca is with us. Thank you. Awesome. Excellent. I wonder where our students are. You think they're still sleeping? Just kidding. Kind of. All right, so we're going to build up this surface here a little bit. The linseed oil, we're almost ready to add color. Almost. I'm looking at my photograph here. It looks like we're almost covering enough ground. I think that's good for right now because I don't want to get too much material that I can't work with, right? Kind of bite off more than I can chew. Don't want to make that happen. So I'm going to, what happened to my rag? There it is. I'm going to wipe off my brush. I always carry rags. Old t-shirts work the best, honestly, because it's nice and soft fabric. You can really work out whatever material's in your brush. Rinse that in some mineral spirits. Angle down right now. Rinse that off in some mineral spirits here, and then I can wipe it off on my brush, or on my cloth, just like that. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and start to mix some colors. But what I need first let's use this one. It's a palette knife, right? Palette knife. Now, it's a knife just because it's a very thin piece of metal, but it is not sharp at all. And it's pretty bendy. as you can see. But what I'm going to do is start to mix my colors using this palette knife. I'm going to roll up my sleeves a little bit here so I don't mess up my nice sweater. And the main color that I've used is in this painting. This is a pretty, what's called a monochromatic painting, right? So the color scheme and the value structure of this whole painting is all based off of one color. Now, I kind of have slight variations of that color to kind of get some more greenish tones in the shadows here around my fan, and some lighter, more blue tones, and even some transparent yellow tones, kind of trying to get this pretty cool atmosphere for this painting, right? I know it seems like a pretty dull painting, but when you get up close here, you can really start to see the changes in colors. And I built all these subtle gray tones with these different tints and shades and hue changes off of Payne's Gray. Now it's this tiny tube of oil paint, Payne's Gray. Let me angle back down here on my palette. So I'm going to go ahead, squirt some oil painting out, some Payne's Gray out on my palette here, right there. And then I'm going to start to, so I haven't been in my studio for about a week or so because I've been working on paper and some other areas. But if you look at these globs of paint right here, here we go, perfect. Some globs of paint, like this one for instance right here. I want to use this color and mix it with this color to get a different hue, correct? But with oil paint, it kind of creates this skin, this harder skin. So, but there's still wet paint inside of it. It kind of creates a little shell, a little bubble around it once it dries. It has that layer when it's really thick. So I'm actually going to use my knife, kind of cut that open on the bottom, right? And flip it over. That way I can mix this really gorgeous purple. I don't know if you can see that. It's probably hard to see the colors there particularly, but it's gorgeous purple into some grains, into some Payne's Gray. Now, there's a little bit of purple. I'm going to add some gray over here. And you're probably like, wow, that looks like total mud. I can't even see any color in that. It's so dark, yada, yada, yada. You know what I'm going to do? Give me 1 second. We're going to, oh yeah, that's what we need. Get some nice lighting. So it's pretty purple. Now, to get some of these subtle grays, right? I had started and had talked about the properties of color and how to really identify some properties of color with some of my painting students. But you really want to mix the color's complementary color into itself. That way to negate and desaturate that color, take out its brightness, create this more dull color. And also create a neutral kind of tone, right? Because that's how grays work. They work in tones. So I'm going to go ahead and angle you back down here. So I just mixed purple into this gray. I'm going to come up here and actually, I need to go find that color actually. Walking over here to my color tower, we are going to grab what's called yellow ochre. It's beautiful yellow, deep yellow color, almost like a honey mustard or something. And I'm actually gonna, it's a little dry in the tube because I haven't used this color in a while. So I'm gonna dig in here and try and scoop some of this paint out. It looks like I'm gonna have to grab a different tube of this color. Is that yellow? Yeah, here we go. Here we go. All right, we got our yellow ochre here. I'm gonna come in here. I don't need very much. And I'm gonna start to mix it into that purple color. Oh, that's already creating such a nice gray, warm gray tone. Right? It almost looks like a green of some sorts. Oh, that's gorgeous. That is a good starting point for my shadow here. I'm going to hold that up to my painting a little bit. Okay, so it's very warm, which I do want the shadow to be actually warmer than the rest of the objects in my painting to kind of give it some temperature contrast, right? That push and pull, kind of deceiving. This painting is a little bit about kind of those nights where you can't quite sleep. You're kind of in this half sleep, half dream state. And so things are kind of strange. You're laying in your bed, staring at your ceiling fan. It's not moving, but maybe there's push and pull because the colors are dull and your eyes can't quite focus too clearly. And so, all right, we're going to mix in some green. Oh, yeah, I'm going to use this. Nice. I'm going to cut this open. Nice phthalo green. Oh, I love this color so much. It's nice dark green. Start to mix that in. Ooh, now it's a pretty brilliant green. It's pretty brilliant green at current moment. So I'm actually going to mix what color into it? If my painting students don't know, I just talked about it, right? My complementary color to green is, in Christmas, we got red. So I'm going to go over here and grab some of this Venetian red. This is my favorite red. It's this nice, cool red, but it's also a very powerful pigment. There's a lot of the pigment in there, and it's very opaque. And so it's going to kind of take over my color pretty quickly. Back and forth with my colors here. Notice how I'm kind of spreading it almost like I'm spreading mustard on a sandwich to continue the mustard train, you know, maybe some ranch dressing, some softened butter. Oh, that is a nice gray. So still a little too red. So I think what I need to do is mix some blue into this. So I'm going to pull out my favorite blue that I use in many, many paintings, and that's Prussian blue. Now, this is also an extremely powerful pigment, but the consistency of the paint is actually pretty transparent when you thin it out. But I'm just going to grab a little bit of it. I'm going to mix it into this color right here is what I'm working with. I know it looks very similar to these colors around here, but these guys are all dried up. Can't use these. So we're mixing a new color right now. So I'm going to take just a look at, oh, you know what? Here we go. Lesson time. I tell my painting students this all the time. Tiny bits of paint. You don't need a lot of paint. You don't waste paint. Paint's expensive. You know, at Liguori, we try to conserve our materials as much as possible, especially because disposing of materials is even more important. So if we can keep those materials in those bottles for longer, one is easier to kind of preserve the cleanliness of the space, but two, allows us to make more art projects. So all we need is this tiny little pieces of paint. Okay, I'll stop my rant now. We're going back. Here we go. So it looks like I'm going to need a little bit more of that, but that is a great start. You can see it's starting to really turn out that greenish color in my gray here. That's what we want. Oh, that's going to look beautiful. Okay. All right. So my color is still a little too dark. I don't want the shadows in my painting to be that contrasting, right? That's one of my principles of art and design is emphasis or contrast. I want it to be that kind of dreamlike texture of the colors pushing and pulling. That way we can really get a kind of a hazy atmospheric feel. So what I'm going to do is come over here. Can you see that? Yeah. I have what's called a titanium buff. Now it's kind of like an off-white color. You know what? I'm going to just grab the tube and show you. So here's a little comparison. We have my normal titanium white, right? That brilliant white, that's this color. And then this is my buff titanium or titanium buff. You can see it's this off-white, kind of neutral color, but I really love using this. This kind of creates some nice subtle grays. I forget what professor in college showed me this. I think it might have been Susan Moore. Thank you very much. This color is amazing for mixing colors. So we're going to grab some of that from my pile over here, and we're going to mix that into, oh, yeah. That's exactly what we want. So because when we mix that titanium buff in there, what it does is actually bring out that initial Payne's gray, right? That initial Payne's gray color that we started with. Right? Oh, that looks great. Oh, that is really nice. Okay, so I'm going to turn back over to my painting here, and we're going to start to mix we're going to actually start to add some paint on this painting here. There we go. I'm going to angle this a little bit better so you can see the paint. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So as you can see on my drawing students that I've had thus far, we have my 1-point perspective, right, from the lines from my ceiling. It's creating that space, and they're all converging at one singular point. I used the exact method we did, as you can see. You know what? I wonder if you can see that right over here. See, there's a dot on the wall. That's actually my vanishing point that I used to get the perspective correct when I was doing this. All right, so we're going to add some more titanium buff to my palette. And we're going to use, I love this brush. I don't even know where this brush came from. I just found it in, you know, like the 200 brushes I have. But as you can see, I wonder if you can see that. Can you see that? There we go. It has like less cluster of bristles towards the end. And what that can allow us to do is get a really soft kind of atmospheric spread back and forth. So I'm going to go ahead and take some of this color. I already have my linseed oil on my painting. I'm actually going to mix some linseed oil into the paint the color I just mixed. Get the consistency I want. Maybe thin it out a little bit with just a little bit of mineral spirits. And I don't want too much paint on my brush to begin with, because I want to work up that surface pretty well. So I'm going to look at my picture here. All right. So I have a nice shadow that's starting to lay down right here. I'm going to go ahead and just give that general shape. I'm not being too specific. You can see just how green and dark that looked compared to what it looked like on the palette, right? So I have a nice shadow in this area here. I'm going to start to cut and carve that a little bit. Kind of spreads out. And so you can see now that I have this linseed oil on my painting, I can start to really mix that color around and spread it nice and soft. Get that nice shadowy texture and really start to build up that color, that shadow, in a nice, even, gradual way, because I don't want to put too much paint down on my canvas at one time. I want to be very nice and gradual with it. Gradually building up that surface. And then I'm going to go ahead and start to lighten up. Using that color I just mixed, I'm actually on my palette going to mix some titanium buff and white into that color to lighten it up a little bit and get that nice value scale of that range of color. So that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. So it isn't quite a number by color, but I do really hone in on one color to start with and then start to build from there. So let's, that's what we want. So I'm not paying too much attention to the lines on my ceiling, right? I can always go back over and paint that back. But as you can see with this brush, I can get this really nice soft texture into that linseed oil and start to really build out this color here. And that nice warm shadow. I'm going to jump over here. Start to come over this a little bit. Wish I could show you the photo I'm working from a little bit better, but it's on the same stand as my webcam or my Chromebook that I'm filming from. So unfortunately I cannot. Maybe I'll figure out something for next time. Figure it out. I'm going to kind of slowly, looks like we just need some more mineral spirits or linseed oil. Oh yeah, that's what we want. Kind of spread that color out. I don't want it to be, again, I don't want that contrast to be too high, right? I want it to be this nice subtle change in color and tone. And so I'm going to go back and forth a little bit. Trying to get the shadow. And now I can go in and add a little bit more depth of that value to get that fan blade, right? Again, we're casting the shadow of my fan blades onto my ceiling. So I want it to be Nice and kind of ethereal, but still have that general shape, this strange shape of my fan blades, which took me a few passes, right? I had to kind of go in and while I was still wet, rub it out, go in, rub it out, because kind of this back and forth, because it's a hard shape to get and the perspective is a little strange. So it was a bit of an effort to kind of workshop it. So I'm going to gradually work here, gradually work up. And then I always like to take a step back. Let's move my picture, my iPad. Let's take a step back and take a look at my painting. Okay, we're getting there. It's getting there. I need more of a shape on that other ceiling fan, right? Or that fan blade over here in this area. So I'm gonna balance my things up again here. And let's dive in. It's strange because there's multiple light sources going on in the photo I'm working from. So the shadows are not direct. They're not like immediately behind my object. Sometimes this one's kind of skewed over here, and then this one kind of comes back up because of that perspective, right? That vanishing point, 1 point perspective. Everything's kind of pushing away from it. So I'm actually going to come in here right above this fan blade, kind of comes out following that same angle, and kind of map out that fan blade just a little bit, and then we can kind of come in here and soften it up a little bit as it comes out the other side. What's really nice too, which you probably have seen in many paintings that other artists have done, and something I have used in the past with lots of my work, is drips, right? What's really nice is the way that mineral spirits and linseed oil kind of work together with the pigments to kind of drip down over the surface. There we go. And you can see it kind of here. I'm going to give you a big drip right in here. You can just kind of see how it's falling. You see that? And it's gathering up the pigment as it's skating across the surface and giving me that momentum that gravity is pulling it down. So sometimes you can use that to your advantage and kind of create this like interesting atmospheric way of looking. Here we go. You get some of the drips in this other painting here on the side, right? And so from it up close, it looks a little strange, but then from a distance, it actually helps give it some dynamism. And this is an underpainting for a painting I'm working on currently. Maybe we'll get to that in the next few weeks. Who knows how long I'm going to be in here live streaming, but this is pretty fun. Thanks all for tuning in. Who goes every year? We got 2 likes and currently 6 people are tuning in. That's cool. So I'm going to come up here and look, just in that time, you can see just how much that moved across my surface and actually helped to figure out where that pigment is going. Kind of helps me blend it out a little bit. So I'm going to come up here, kind of sculpt around my ceiling fan a little bit. And right now, I'm literally just painting with turpentine. I have enough pigment on the canvas, right? This isn't anything too extreme as far as like how much paint I should have or shouldn't have. But I want to thin out that surface and kind of start to blend those colors together. The color that I already had that was dry on my canvas and the color that I'm now using with my linseed oil to create these shadows. So this is getting too much over here. It's dripping a little too much. I'm going to come here and spread that out. And what I'm actually going to do is take my rag. This is not only a tool for cleaning your brushes, but you can use it to actually paint. So I'm going to come in here with these kind of soft circles, kind of, again, just like we did with my gesso, which is just about dry. We'll do round 2 for that in just a second. But right now I'm just kind of using this rag to gently work that color into the surface of my painting and blend out those areas to get that nice, soft, ethereal feel. I don't want anything too complicated. Oh, that looks pretty nice. Look at the movement that I just got out of that. Can you see that? Yeah, let's zoom in. Let's get a close up of that guy. That looks pretty nice, actually. Right? That circular motion in my shadow there, because then from a distance, really helps make it alive a little better. Here we go. I'm going to come in here and do that a little bit more, being a little bit more precise with my rag, working that color back and forth. I had so much pigment down on my painting that I needed to kind of pull some back and get that nice shadowy tone. This one over here, especially, I mean, at least in the webcam I'm looking at here, this looks really nice. It is much greener than I expected, because on my palette, again, colors look very different on your palette depending on the colors that they're surrounded by, right? That's what we call optical mixing. And so in color theory, when you have certain colors that are surrounding another color, it'll actually change it. I wonder if I have, I don't have any examples in here of that specifically with like color squares and swatches. They're all in my classroom at the school, unfortunately, but maybe I can find some examples for you for next time, talking a little bit about color theory. So I'm going to jump back over to, I'm going to step aside here, move my painting card out of the way. We're going to finish gessoing my other canvas right now, because I would like to finish that. That way next time we can work on it and start a new painting with you all from scratch. Okay, let's angle my light. Nice. Okay, where did I put that? Oh, here it is. All right, got my gesso again, Studio Gesso. This is round 2. Now I'm not going to show you all the rounds I got, or I'm going to do on this this canvas surface, but I'm going to go ahead and do my second layer. Okay, so my first layer, I wanted to really scrub the gesso into it, right? But now that I have it in, now that the canvas has kind of absorbed that material thus far, God, I wish this camera was better. You really can't see it. It still has all that rough texture from my canvas. And so I want to start to go back over and give it some layers of really brushing it out, thinning it out to build up those smooth layers to eventually get a nice painting surface. So I'm going to start at the top, and I want my paint to be nice and even this time, my primer to be nice and even. So I'm going to kind of work right to left here in these stripes across my painting, kind of using the width of my brush as that indexical mark, right? I'm only covering the amount of space that my brush actually takes up. That way I get a nice, smooth, even coating across my whole painting surface, my whole canvas. Sorry, talking and painting is at the same time is difficult. Normally I don't have friends hanging out with me in the studio. I think live streaming painting as an act is a very interesting kind of thing, because normally when I'm painting in my studio, it's very solitary. I either have headphones in or I'm playing music, and I like to listen to lots of calming ambient music, as many of my students know, in the classroom while we paint, while we work. So normally it's very very solitary, but this is different. This is interesting. I like it so far. I'm hoping that you're enjoying it as well, for the 4 people that are still with me. All right. And we're also painting a lot longer than I thought we would. We were almost at a full hour here, I think, between the first live stream that the internet kicked me off for whatever reason again, and now we have almost an hour's worth. So I'll probably, once I'm done this layer, I'm probably gonna head out, and we'll do this again probably next week or maybe later this week. I'm not really sure. I'll talk to Miss Shannon and Miss Rebecca, and we'll figure out the best timing for us to do it, because maybe noon isn't the best time, because I know all you teenagers love to sleep in until 5 p.m. So maybe we can figure out a good time. So as you can see, I'm really being pretty particular about my brush stroke because this thicker primer, right? You're gonna end up seeing some of my brush strokes, even though it is self-leveling. You're still gonna be able to see some of the brush strokes that are in the painting, in that primed surface. Notice how also I kind of lay down a glob and then I kind of go back over little by little. That way I can really evenly spread the material around, the primer around. Man, I wish I could see the chat, you know, like I want to know like what you're all watching on Netflix and stuff these days because hashtag quarantine life. Currently rereading my favorite fantasy book series. Yes, I am that much of a nerd. Rereading it for the fourth time. The Kingkiller Chronicles, the Name of the Wind and the Wise Man's Fear. Where's my Mr. Nick at? Hopefully he's watching. I think he's read those I know we've talked about them before. Hey, also, yeah, big shout out to Mr. Nick. His book is getting a lot of, his new book with, I think his name is Francis Delario, is getting a lot of press right now. And I'm really excited for it. I read his last one, This Distance, which is a really great book. So yeah, shout out to Mr. Nick. Shout out to Mr. Pat. I know he's been probably working hard, making some music. He's been working on his new musical project for a while now. Shout out to Mr. Pat. Can't wait to hear that. You still have yet to send it to me. If you're watching, Mr. Pat, you still have yet to send that to me. So hit me up. Let me hear Pat and Mac. So we are almost done priming of this surface. Ooh, got something there caught in the gesso. I have one more last stripe. So as I'm painting this, I just want to say thank you again to all of you who have tuned in today to my live stream. We'll definitely do this again. This was really fun. I hope you and your families are all happy, healthy, safe, being smart. Stay at home, really. Just do it. It's fine. We live in a world with the internet, and it's so easy to just like chill out. You've got 2.5 hours of ingenuity every day. You're still learning, still having a great time. And we're all here from Liguori to support you. Always remember that. Always, always, always. If you need anything, please let one of us know, and we will do everything we can to help you out and make sure that you are safe. So this last pass on my painting, I'm going to go over that whole thing while it's still wet, get that nice, even surface. All right, that looks pretty good. Pretty good. Look at that brand new white surface. So off camera, obviously, I'm going to go rinse out this brush. Gesso normally is water soluble, so you can just rinse out in your sink. Just make sure you like really rinse it all down and wash it out correctly because you don't want to clog up your drains and stuff. But let's see if I take this off the wall right now. Ooh, I wonder if you can hear that, because what happens is the painting gets really, really wet and that fabric stretches around the surface. And so when I tap it, I wonder if you can hear that. It's this like very deep sub. It's like this deep drum sound. It's very, very satisfying. All right. Well, that is all I have for today. Thank you so much again, Mr. Cody here from Liguori Academy on our YouTube channel. I hope you're all doing well, and I just got paint on my sweater, so that's it for me for now. Talk to you later.